What's up, lore masters? One of the more interesting questions that I'm presented with is why I think Janeway opted not to go for the Bajoran wormhole. There have been quite a few excellent videos and theory discussions done on this very topic, and I'll include a few of those below. It's an interesting what-if scenario, and one I think that could be really fun at a later date. However, I don't think that it's a plot hole at any point. There are some extremely compelling arguments for and against Voyager making the trip into the Gamma Quadrant. To be honest, I really don't blame Janeway for opting to go through the Delta Quadrant. It's the safer bet. Let's get into it. The first thing to understand is that there are no completely canon maps of the Gamma Quadrant, at least to my knowledge. Recently, one of the star maps that was widely considered to be legit was canonized in Star Trek Picard, but that map doesn't encompass the Gamma Quadrant itself. However, since we know it was that map that was made canon, it's far more likely that the other maps in the source material it came from would be canon as well. So for now, I'm going to be utilizing the map that you're seeing on the screen. It's just important to note that technically this is based on logical inferences and may not be what they come up with in Season 3 of Discovery or Season 2 of Picard. Looking at the issue itself, first, and I think the most critical piece of it, is that people are looking at the map in 2 dimensions. Space is actually 3. While the straight line from Voyager's starting point to the Bajoran wormhole is shorter, when you look at it in 3 dimensions, it could significantly impact the runtime. We have no complete way of knowing if that perhaps where both points, specifically Federation space and the wormhole, were on the z-axis, if it would significantly impact the trip. There are also quite a few other reasons not to go through the Gamma Quadrant itself. Going through the Delta Quadrant is a straight line. Going through the Gamma Quadrant is going off course to arrive at a point you hope will ultimately take you to a point in the Alpha Quadrant that arrives at a, hopefully, friendly, but at the end of the day foreign power, where you can, again hopefully, find Starfleet still has a presence there. Not only that, wormholes aren't exactly a sure bet. Yeah, we're told that the Bajoran wormhole is the universe's first stable wormhole ever, but that's not exactly the first time that has been said, and we know in the future that the Bajoran wormhole can just disappear. Not only is the Bajoran wormhole not a sure thing, the Dominion is extremely hostile at this time and had destroyed several Federation vessels. This is information that Janeway would have had as well. Voyager would be going into territory that the captain knew was forbidden from them going into, and they would be surrounded by hostile ships. The Dominion had made it clear they don't want anyone in their space, and that they would neutralize any ship and consider it a threat. Additionally, the Intrepid at that time was an advanced piece of Starfleet technology, and while it would have been quite a bit older by the time they got to Dominion space itself, giving the Founders a chance to get their hands on a ship like Voyager is simply an unacceptable risk. To put this into modern terms, using my complete lack of military understanding, it would be like a United States destroyer during World War II that had to make it to a German port to get to an airport that would take them to Iceland. Except, while this airport does boast that it won't suddenly disappear, and everyone says that it won't, it's the first one to be like that, no airport that was made like it has ever survived. It's also off course versus the straight shot to the United States, and it's a flip of a coin if it's any more dangerous than taking the longer route. And oh yeah, your fancy new ship with the fancy US hardware could fall into German hands. There was also a good point that was brought up by Certifiably in-game. Looking at the map, the straightest path will go through a large part of the Delta Quadrant and into the Beta Quadrant. The journey to the wormhole is through the Delta Quadrant and then a large part of the Gamma Quadrant. The Beta Quadrant is a known entity to the Federation. They are aware of a lot of what's in it, even if it's not Federation space. Janeway and Voyager would have virtually no idea what's in the Gamma Quadrant, so while a large part of the journey is unknown either way, there's more of a chunk known going through the Delta Quadrant than there is going through the Gamma Quadrant. There's also one thing that I think we take for granted about Starfleet. Their officers are idiots. If they have a chance to study something, or to go home, they're going to choose to study it. Remember what Picard did in Q-Who. He chose to stay and do some exploring, even though he was explicitly told it was dangerous and they need to escape as soon as possible. So yes, while it added anywhere from 10 to 20,000 light years, it was a chance to do what no one had done before, to search out new life and find wonders that had never been seen before. Some might try to counter and argue that the Borg were a known quantity in the Delta Quadrant, and it was suspected that their homeworld was there. The Borg getting a hold of an Intrepid-class ship is worse than the Dominion getting it, I'll admit that. However, Janeway would not know the composition or size of the Borg at this time. They could own the entire Delta Quadrant, or it could be a small sector. We might find allies that can actually defeat them. Additionally, the Borg are known to be in the Alpha and Beta quadrants unchecked, and with the tech we know they have from TNG, it's unlikely that they opted not to go into the Gamma Quadrant. At the end of the day, based on who Janeway is and what she knew, and the fact that she's a Starfleet officer, the wormhole just wasn't the best bet. We don't know if it's actually going to be there when she arrives. It is surrounded by space Nazis, and if she's wrong, the trip just got a whole lot longer. The Delta Quadrant is as good a choice as any. I'd argue you probably have better odds there, so if I were her, I think I'd make the same decision. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.